Councillors, executive, members of the gallery, and how good it is to have a gallery again after a long time, and those joining us on one of the virtual channels on Facebook, welcome to the March Ordinary Meeting of Council. Could I please ask you to be upstanding for the acknowledgement of country and the council prayer. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the country of the Dja. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the area we're on and their rich culture and their unique role in the life of this region. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council. Direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of our shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all our residents. This we pray. Amen. Thank you, councillors. We have an agenda before us. Welcome again. We have no apologies. We're full house. We have no leave of absence. Councillors, item 4, disclosure of conflict of interest. Councillor Murphy.
8.9, which is Sports and Leisure Centre and Outdoor Pool Management Contract.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. And your conflict?
I am a director of the company that runs it.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. That's noted. Any other conflicts, councillors? If not, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting as circulated. Any concerns? Thank you. We'll regard those as confirmed. Minutes of the delegated advisory committees. We don't have any of those. We don't have any petitions. Let's move straight to item 8, officers' reports. Item 8.1, the Carrisbrook Flood Levy construction contract, G1592/2022. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, Councillor de Villiers. Yeah, the motion.
The tender that was out for the flood levy construction is part 4 of the levy that has become awarded to Dorian.
Okay, thank you. Councillor de Villiers, the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Councillor de Villiers, towards the motion.
No, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sproul.
Through the Mayor, I just want to add that this is for the construction of the contract of a sum of $1,082,870.80. Council authorises the CEO to execute the contract. And I also like to say, well, I welcome the result of the tender application and I'm pleased to see the final stage of the levy start. I want to state my disappointment that the weighting criteria and items which are included in the new procurement policy were not utilised in the grading of this tender. These criteria included environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. While the inclusion of these categories may not have had an impact on the final result, it would have indicated the Shire's progression to a more environmental, socially beneficial tender process. I hope these criteria are more carefully considered in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. Other councillors? Not I'll put the motion. Sorry, Councillor Murphy.
Yes. What I'll say is about Door on Earth movie that they've won a few contracts with us over the years, and just must admit the work is very good. But a local company, employing local people, doing local things, and it's the price was right. Everything was right, and their percentage, their evaluation was a very good evaluation. I went through it and I was quite happy to see that they win the contract, and I'm looking forward to them running this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those carried. Item 8.2, draft Central Goldfields Climate Action Plan. Councillor seeking a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. the motion?
I'd like to move that Council endorse the draft Central Goldfields Climate Action Plan for public exhibition from the 31st of March to the 21st of April. A further report will come to Council after the exhibition period, presenting the final climate action plan for adoption. This is planned for May, subject to level of changes required after exhibition period.
Thank you, Councillor Sproul. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Sproul, I'll give talk the motion.
Through the Mayor. Central Goldfields Climate Action Plan. What a great plan to have been able to be included in. Firstly, thank you to those in the community who have participated in the process and to the council staff who have put so much effort into this. I found this journey incredibly interesting as each person who contributed had their own thoughts and ideas around climate change action, what we should be doing, what we are doing, and ultimately what we want to be doing. They're all passionate and excited to be part of this project. Also, I want to congratulate Julia and Kylie for keeping us focused, as our discussions could often continue on for some length with little regard to the time. There is a huge amount of information to digest in this plan. Councils have a responsibility to promote the economic, social and environmental sustainability of the municipal district, including mitigation and planning for climate change risks. This plan outlines Council's role in leading the local response, but notes the critical importance of community partnerships and collaborations to strengthen our efforts. This plan is not just about greenhouse gases. This is a plan that clearly sets out where we are as a shire, what risks we face as the effects of climate change worsen, what costs may be associated if we don't take steps to mitigate and adapt, and what opportunities are available for us to grow and benefit with the shift to more sustainable practices. Council's commitment to net zero by 2030 is a positive sign that action is being taken. Our participation in the VECO power purchasing agreement has had a considerable impact on our emissions, but there are still so many opportunities for Council and the community in general. Our emissions was reduced from 1,690 tonnes to 422 and a half tonnes by changing to renewable energy. It will be challenging to tackle the remainder with limited funds. However, through collaboration and education, we can use this opportunity to not only create a better environment, but benefit economically as well. As with everything, there is a cost. However, the cost could potentially be dramatically worse if we do nothing. This is our environment, our home. We need to respect and care for it for our future's sake. Please take the time to read the plan and get an understanding of the impacts of climate change on our shire. If you have any questions or want to get involved more, contact our Sustainability Officer, Julia Walsh, and equally, I'm also more than happy to discuss the plan with anyone interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sproul. Councillor Long.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Like Wayne, this has been a very long journey. We started this almost 12 months ago, April last year. This document, I'm super proud of what's being produced by our officers. It's very informative. There is a lot of information, but like Councillor Sproul said, please take the time to read it. Climate change is something I'm very passionate about, and to see this document being presented for community consultation is just fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.3, planning applications CMRPT 078-21 at 123 Alma Moonlight Road, a 5-lot subdivision. Councillor seeking motion. Thank you, Councillor Miller.
I so move the recommendation that Council, having caused notice of planning permit application number 078/21 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Central Goldfields Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters generally required, resolves to grant a planning permit and issue a notice of decision to grant a permit in respect of planning permit application number 078-21 for the land known and described as 123 Moonlight Road, Alma, for a 5-lot subdivision of land in a rural living zone, or ARLZ, the removal of native vegetation and associated works in accordance with the endorsed plans and subject to the following conditions. No layout alteration. The development must be generally in accordance with the plans endorsed as part of this permit and must not be altered or modified without the written consent of these or of the responsible authority and notification of permit conditions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. A seconder? Councillor Long, thank you very much. Councillor Miller.
Now, this motion, the purpose of this motion is to seek a council determination for planning permit, and I'm not going to go through all those numbers again because I'm getting tongue-tied, and it's for a 5-lot subdivision in an RLZ zone, removal of native vegetation, etc. Notice of the application has been given and there have been 7 objections received, of which we listened to intently. This application sits within the policy planning framework and also subdivision of land within rural land zone, which transitioned over since amalgamations 30 years ago. While the primary purpose of the RLZ is to provide for residential use in rural environment, the proposal must strike a balance between several matters, including protecting and enhancing the natural resources, biodiversity, and landscape values of the area, as well as encouraging the development of the land based on comprehensive and sustainable land management practices and infrastructure provisions. It is worth noting, should any party appeal any decision that council makes, there would be a Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal, VCAT, hearing, which will attract additional costs. In my experience, this type of application is never overturned at VCAT. So in conclusion, I cannot see any valid operational reason we would refuse this application. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Long.
Nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Vella summed that up nicely. Thank you.
Other councillors?
Mayor.
Hey, Councillor Sprout.
Through the Mayor. I wish to thank the applicant and the objectors for their time and information regarding the proposed subdivision. Whilst we identify that we want more growth in housing and to build our Shire's population, I'm mindful on how we achieve that. Last meeting, we saw council reject an application for building on a property due to its size. While this subdivision considers the size quite well, I don't think it has taken the use of the land into consideration as good. The proposed subdivision is for 5 lots in a rural living zone. When I think of these type of properties, I think of homes with sheds for tractors and stables, etc. They are for people wanting space and the land to do something with. Given the building envelope depicted in the subdivision plan of approximately 25 by 25, this doesn't leave much room for stuff other than a house. A large part of the land is also subject to inundation. Whilst there is nothing stopping the new owners from these parcels of land to apply for permits for an extension to increase the building envelope, there is equally no guarantee that they may be accepted. This has the potential to leave the new buyers distraught. Whilst we have said buyer beware, I believe this is to be different than the decision last meeting due to the fact that these are new allotments. I believe more responsibility should be placed on the person who is subdividing, which would hopefully prevent frustrations later.
Thank you very much. Other councillors? Councillor Murphy.
So I'm the fencing in twixt and between, so I'm going to say where I sit at the moment. My concerns is the future, which I know that councillors around the table put out concerning that. Lot 1 is 11.99 hectares, and I'm just concerned that the future is that they'll be asking for another 4 lots, which they can, but there's a driveway which goes up between 2 lots, and it won't get it. It's just the driveway is for lot 1. And I'm just concerned that in the future that may happen, which it could happen. But I have got concerns. The other concern I had, I understand, was down the track of 2 hectares. And I do understand that we can have these a bit smaller if we need to, because in this situation is that the 20 hectares is an all-in situation for the 5 lots. So you can have the 1.88 and 1.83, which is close to 2 hectares. It's a consideration by council officers because the whole of the lot size are 20 hectares, which is one is 11.99. I can sort of understand that. I do understand that. I've been thinking about how long this has been there as well, Councillor Liddell, and it's definitely 30 years or over. And this rural living zone has been there for that long. So I have the situation that same as Harkin Street, it's been the road street's been in that area for that long. I do have empathy with the objectors in some ways, but I'd just like to read out Golden Murray water conditions. This is Golden Murray water. This is Golden Murray water, and they've approved it. All wastewater generated from any future development on the new lots 2, 3, 4, and 5 created by subdivision must be treated and disposed of using an approved system. The system must have a certificate of conformity issued by the conformity assessment body or equivalent and be installed, operated, and maintained according to the relevant Australian standard EPA code of practice. That's from Golden Murray water. So all entities have said yes to this. It is on land which is rural living zone. It has, it has a dirt road, which is fair enough. That's what it has. If there's farming land across the road, it's where some issues happen. There's farming land across the road. There's issues where people might think this will never happen, but it is on rural living zone. It has passed all the requirements, and I believe that it is a sound situation, but I have concerns for the future, which I shouldn't. In this situation, I can't concern myself with the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Sproul, I'll just check Councillor Sproul and Councillor Murphy. I'm not actually talking against the motion, are you? Because if so, I'll have to give Councillor Miller right to reply. So I just need to check on that one. So I understand the concerns you've expressed, but you're not actually seeking to talk against the motion? Or I don't put words in mouth, but
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll vote against this.
okay. Councillor Miller, right. Any other councillors? Before I give Councillor Miller right to reply?
I'm on this fence.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Okay, Councillor Miller, right to reply.
Thank you. Look, I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Sproul, totally where you're coming from. However, I feel it's subjective. And these parcels of land, the purchasers can utilise their pieces of land in whatever way they wish, as long as it sits it's in accordance with our planning policy framework. So what they put on their piece of land is entirely up to them, whether they have 1 shed, 2 sheds, all have to be permitted, of course. But I understand exactly what you're saying in regards to the objectors, but I think we're being subjective there. And I will not, you weren't voting against Mr. Murphy, Councillor Murphy, were you?
Councillor Murphy's undecided, I think, at this point.
No, I'm undecided. We'll find out in 30 seconds.
Because I was going to respond to you too. So these pieces of land, it's on a 20 hectare acreage. They can't be modified, and in accordance with this recommendation, the development must be generally in accordance with the plans endorsed as part of this permit and must not be altered or modified without the written consent of the responsible authority, which we have control over. So I'm satisfied with that. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bella. I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Item 8.4, another planning application at CMRPT 11621 for 281 Maryborough Denali Road, Sonac. Councillor seeking a motion. Thank you, Councillor Long.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I'd like to move the motion that council, having caused notice of planning permit application number 116/21 to be given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Central Goldfields Planning Scheme, and having considered all the matters generally required, resolves to grant a planning permit and issue a notice of decision to grant a permit in respect of planning permit application number 116/21 for the land known and described as 281 Maryborough Denali Road, Havelock, for the development of land for buildings and works, a reduction in the car parking requirement, a waiver of the bicycle spaces requirement, the removal of native vegetation, and the creation of access to a road in a transport zone 2 in accordance with the endorsed plans and subject to the following conditions. I won't read them out if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
That's fine. Thanks, Councillor Long. A second to the motion. Thanks, Councillor Sprout. Councillor Long, you took the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to move this motion to determine a planning permit for the development of land for buildings and works at Sonac, just out of Maryborough and in my ward, Flynn ward. So Sonac manufactures ingredients for the food, pet food, fertiliser and pharmaceutical industries, and it's a factory that processes abattoir byproducts. Business expansion has the potential to increase jobs and improve sales. This leads to high profits and growth in our local economy. Council was given a brief on Sonac's expansion plans last August, which was very interesting, by the Managing Director. Reading the proposed developments at Sonac is an exciting thing for both the company but also for the Central Goldfields, as Sonac anticipates using local trades for the expansion works that are planned. Mr. Mayor, I did have one concern, and that was in regards to traffic management, in particular, so traffic turning right from Denali to Maryborough, which would mean that any vehicle behind a truck turning right would have to slow right down and stop, which on a road signpost at 100 kilometres an hour is a safety issue. Sonac has since then gotten back to council and has advised that they will implement a BAR, which for traffic heading from Denali to Maryborough. So a BAR is a basic right turning treatment. It's an extension of the bitumen to allow vehicles to safely manoeuvre around a vehicle that is turning right. This is in fact the next best thing to a 2-lane highway. In addition, the area will be adequately lit to assist vision at night time. So yeah, I look forward to seeing these plans implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Sprout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposal and application to the expansion of Sonac is a welcome item on our agenda. We wish for our local economy to grow, and Sonac has been a quiet achiever in our community for some years. As Councillor Long indicated, they take a waste product and value add it to create quality products for a number of uses. This application allows them to expand their operations with the addition of state-of-the-art equipment. Whilst this application is specifically around buildings and works, they are still subject to additional EPA requirements.
Thank you, Councillor Sprout. Other councillors? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.5, Audit and Risk Committee are recommended reappointment. Seeking a motion. Thanks, Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council appoint Robert Tomasini to be an independent member of the Audit and Risk Committee for a further term of 3 years to April 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Levy. Councillor Lovett calls the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Robert Tomasini has been an independent member of the committee since its inception in 2017. And in this time has brought a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. His background in local government, along with specialised knowledge in finance and economics, has been invaluable. Along with the other 2 independent members of our committee, I believe we have an audit and risk committee that is unparalleled in local government. The Chairman, John Watson, has been CEO of Metropolitan Councils, CEO of Local Government Victoria, and has been an advisor to the government on local government issues. Our newest member, Linda McNeil, brings both national and international expertise to the table in terms of risk management and mitigation. We wish Robert well for the next 3 years. That will be his last appointment to Central Goldfields Shire Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor.
I concur with Councillor Lovett. I just need to say I've been a member of the Audit and Risk Committee and was originally a member in 2017. It's good to have this situation. I'm really happy with how it runs and how it goes, and there's no stone unturned, and asking questions and making everyone accountable, etc. And I'm happy to be on that committee and happy to keep working with the committee and putting Robert Thompson back on board.
Thank you, Councillor. The other councillors? Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.6, the Gender Equality Plan 2022 to 2025. Councillor seeking a motion. Councillor Lavella.
Recommendation that council adopts the Gender Equality Action Plan 2022 to 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Lavella. A seconder. Councillor de Villiers. Councillor Lavella, talk to the motion, please.
The Gender Equality Act 2020 requires councils to submit our Gender Equality Action Plan 4 years to Commission for Gender Equality in the Public Sector by 31st of March 2022. Say that with a mouthful of marbles. The plan has been developed in line guidance provided through the Commission to complement the objects of the Gender Equality Act. The actions outlined in the plan are modest, reflecting the limited resources available to us. Funding application submitted to the Victorian Government is $270,000 over a 3-year period, with a co-contribution requirement from Council to the value of $7,500 cash and $22,500 in kind, which would commence in the 2nd year if we are successful with this grant. This motion and report addresses Council's strategic risk legislative compliance, failure to manage our compliance by meeting requirements of the Gender Equality Act 2020 to submit a 4-year Gender Equality Action Plan by the 31st of March 2022 would indeed have a negative implications to our council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor de Villiers.
Just a comment or a question, rather. On page 143 of the report, and Councillor Bella's sort of had the correct date, 31st of March 2021. And I think it should be 2022. So if that correction can just be made.
We'll pick that one up.
Yep.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to say to us?
No, I think this is excellent. Thank you for raising it. Yeah.
Other councillors? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Murphy, carried. Item 8.7, February Finance Report. Councillor seeking a motion. Councillor Murphy. Your motion.
The council receives and notes the attached financial report for the period to the 28th of February 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Robert. Councillor Murphy, talk to the motion.
I'm always pleased to look at these, and I think it's still going along quite well. So I'm just going to read out the summary, which is really what the report, a bit of a 3-line summary. So the income statement is tracking ahead of budget, so income is ahead of budget. Good. for the 8 months to the 28th of February 2020. This relates to recognition of previously received grants, as well as a rate notice being issued. So, yep, that's good. The balance sheet remains strong with a strong cash position, and which it does. The cash is anticipated drawn down on as the capital works program ramps up. So the cash in the capital works program ramps up, cash drawn down on. The capital works statement is showing a spend of 8.9 million. Well, this is behind budget. It's anticipated that increased spend will begin in the coming months. So in general, these reports have been very good for the time that I've been here, especially in the last 6 months. So I'd like to thank the General Manager, Mr. Smith. I'm putting this together in his team, and I always like looking at this and always ask questions of that department. I'm very interested in the finance side of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Lovett?
Nothing further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Lovett. Other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.8, the Maryborough Aerodrome Task Force. Before seeking a motion on this, and it is quite a special report and a special development, I think it would be helpful perhaps to invite an officer's report, officer's introduction to the report, and Mr. Chair, invite you to present that introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Maryborough Aerodrome is a facility managed by council, as you know. It was previously as a registered aerodrome under the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, CASA, and since October 2019 as an aircraft landing area, or ALA. Council resolved in July 2021 to appoint the Maryborough Aerodrome Task Force. As expressed in its terms of reference, the purpose of the task force was to provide advice to council on the future use and development of Maryborough Aerodrome to provide the best economic and social benefits to the community. Chaired by Mr. Neil Arbuthnot and comprising local people with expertise, the task force has been meeting over several months and has briefed councillors on some of the key issues around the aerodrome. The task force has now produced a report that is presented to council for consideration. The task force report and an accompanying officer report are included in the agenda for this meeting. The task force has identified some areas of risk that have developed since the aerodrome status was changed to an ALA, as well as opportunities that might result from operating the facility as a well-maintained and managed ALA and potentially returning it in time to CASA registration status. The officer report responds to the issues raised by the task force with 6 recommendations for immediate and subsequent actions. I'd like to note that a couple of points in the officer report that appear on page 180 of the meeting agenda should be corrected. The first is that the fencing inspections currently occur monthly, not weekly as stated in the officer report, while the other inspections that are listed there are conducted on a weekly basis. And secondly, the line in the officer report stating inspections and maintenance are undertaken in accordance with the 2018 Maryborough Aerodrome Manual should read with reference to the 2018 Maryborough Aerodrome Manual. And just to clarify that point, since 2019, inspections have been undertaken on a regular basis, but to a lower frequency than under the full CASA registration standards. That has been perceived to be in keeping with the aerodrome status as an ALA. While it is clear that the burden of risk is largely transferred to the pilot when using an ALA, officers concur with the task force's view that the inspection and maintenance regime should be updated so as to more effectively address risk areas under a broader duty of care carried by council. There are some priority works that can be undertaken almost immediately in the current financial year, with more expensive works being referred to the 2022-23 council budget process. The officer recommendations largely focus on stage 1 of the task force's proposed 3-stage approach as a pathway to addressing key areas of risk in the shorter term, while longer term considerations can be investigated through the business plan process and review of the 2012 master plan that can follow once these immediate issues are addressed. In welcome news, the federal government has recently announced the opening of round 3 of the regional airports program. And this means that funding from the 22-23 council budget can potentially, through a successful application, leverage 50% matched funding and expedite some of the more substantial works required. Maryborough Aerodrome Task Force report is now presented to Council for consideration.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just of course seeking a motion, councillors, any questions from Mr Chair? Not councillors seeking a motion. Councillor Loughlin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move that Council receive the Maryborough Aerodrome Task Force report and note Council's appreciation for the work of the task force in producing it. Rejoin the Australian Airports Association. 3, obtain an independent assessment of risk management issues at Maryborough Aerodrome that identifies, prioritises and estimates costs for work on the ground, an updated inspection and maintenance regime, and a pilot notification and permission to land process. 4, commence priority works that can be undertaken within the 2021-2022 operations budget. 5, refer the allocation of funds for more extensive priority works at the aerodrome to the 2022-23 council budget process. And 6, apply for funding under round 3 of the Regional Airports Program.
Thank you very much, councillor. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, councillor. Councillor Loughlin, I'd like to talk to the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The future of the Maryborough Airport has been a vexed issue for many years. Successive councils have struggled to come to grips with what to do. I don't make any judgment about the decision to downgrade the airport from certified to our ALA along with the grandfathering rights. This was yesterday, and we as a council must look forward to tomorrow. Following administrations, first motion by the newly elected council in 2020 was to affirm the Maryborough Airport as an important community asset by this council. Accordingly, council established Maryborough Airport Task Force, comprising people involved in the industry, to advise council how best to proceed with the airport. The report we received tonight is considered, logical, and a template for future actions by council. It lays out a pathway forward, ensuring the airport's future. Recommendations such as renewing membership of the Australian Airports Association can be done now. To act on obstacle limitation survey can be done now. More importantly, we can continue to operate the airport as an ALA whilst continuing to investigate the possibility of returning to a certified airport. Importantly, that decision, I believe, will be made by a future council following a lot of work and a lot of discussion. On behalf of the council, I would like to thank the chair and all members of the task force for the time and expertise they have put into compiling this excellent report that I'm sure will be used as a primary reference source by this council in all discussions relating to the Maryborough Airport. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Loughlin.
I concur with everything Councillor Lovett has outlined. This motion is aligned with our Central Goldfields Shire Council Plan 2021-2025, our growing economy. Also, our community vision, a vibrant and thriving economy with a growing population. As Councillor Lovett alluded to, the aerodrome has been a hot topic for a great number of years, surrounded by many rumours, hearsays, opinions, innuendos, and a great deal of sensitivity. However, bottom line, the Maryborough Aerodrome has the potential to be an extremely valuable asset to the Shire, only limited by narrow vision and lack of will. Currently, there's approximately 23,000 funds put away for a business case. We are the envy of so many councils wishing they had listed on their asset register an aerodrome. With support from DELP, state and federal government grants, council and the community, the sky is the limit. The downside is the aerodrome has deteriorated over the past 5 years, so therefore, as a priority from our council, it is a risk liability perspective. We need to invest valuable dollars. My view, this asset has good potential to prosper, assist in our economic development vision, and put our Shire on the map in regards to tourism. So why wouldn't we invest in this amazing opportunity for the benefit of the whole of the Shire and beyond? We as a council fully support and ensure that aerodrome is on track with a 3-staged approach. I support this motion with absolutely no reservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Other councillors? Look, I would like to say a few words. First of all, to just emphasise the points, and Councillor Lovett said as well, done very well. This elected council came into office on the clear understanding, it listened to the constituents that Maryborough aerodrome needed to be revisited, needed to be looked at. As Councillor Lovett summed up, we made that a priority from the start. I need to acknowledge the task force itself has done a wonderful job, and each member of that task force should be congratulated. And the task force is a recognition again of the diversity and the skill set that we have within our community and how fortunate we are. But acknowledging each one of those 6 people, I do need to pay special attention to Mr. Rodney Brown, who is in the gallery tonight. His advocacy as president of the Aerodrome Committee has been continuous, has been focused, and has been value added. And that needs to be absolutely acknowledged as in the quality of his advice. Now, at an early stage, when we were talking about the establishment of a task force, so that it would be the community experts that would be advising council on what should happen. Rob said very, very clearly, he said, look, the person I think that needs to lead this is Neil Arbuthnot. And given this, Neil's skill and background as someone who has built airports, has run them, has been an engineer and a head of infrastructure in local government, certainly well planned. But and I need to acknowledge too that not only Rod's advocacy but Neil's leadership. There's always a lot of work when you're leading, where you've got to write the paper, you've got to do all the consultations, the negotiations. I think there are probably countless conversations with CASA, with all sorts of authorities, as well as leading the task force and pulling together the actual paper and writing it. So a lot of hard work. So I really want to, in thanking all on behalf of council, all 6 members who each brought their special, unique contribution. I need to acknowledge those 2 for special mention. But this has been a call to arms. Now, I appreciate that one of the things we did when we got the briefing is move very quickly into action, because it was a call to arms. It was a call to arms that we needed to move quickly and to do some things and to simply ratchet up the focus on the aerodrome. We did that, and we took the advice of the task force to seek some independent advice on liability issues, as consistent with the task force. In no way, let me make it clear, overriding the expert advice of the task force, but simply I wish to act consistent with that, to get those advice on priority issues so that we could move very quickly, and to use some of the contacts that we have within the region to try and move on those priority issues recommended by the task force. So it was really our absolute desire to move very quickly and very very, very thoroughly with those recommendations. This has been absolutely a line in the sand, and down the track, I think it will be seen that the task force report has been something that has galvanised and shaped the forward direction of Maryborough Aerodrome. And to the task force, to its chair, to Ronnie Brown, I think we do, as Councillor Lovett said, have a debt of thanks and gratitude for work done. And one just final comment, Greg Corcoran, one of our users, referred me to someone who has got a lot of interest in potentially relocating here. He's got a business in a metropolitan airport, which is probably being crowded out. And he was talking about the opportunity, and he said, you know, you have a beautiful, that was his word, beautiful aerodrome. We should never forget that in terms of our way going forward. We've got a lot of work to do, a lot of investment to do. We have a beautiful aerodrome, a beautiful opportunity, and a beautiful opportunity to shape our growth and the forward planning of our Shire, the development of our Shire. Councillor Murphy.
I don't think we've said this before, but the task force is a volunteer group. It's all volunteers. So they're community-minded people who volunteer their time and their efforts and their expertise. And that's what the community is about. So it's really important to understand that our community is about volunteering their expertise and their time. And I have to commend the task force on that, and literally any group that does that.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now, Councillor Murphy will note the Councillor declared a conflict of interest at 6:47. Councillor Murphy is leaving the chamber. So now item 8.9, the MSLC and outdoor pools management contract, G1083-16. Now it is noted that there are two reports, one public, one confidential. Councillors, we have been briefed on that confidential, the details of the confidential report, which contains some commercial comparison issues. But I think our view is that we don't need to refer to that, so we can actually deal with the primary report openly without needing to go into camera on that. So, Councillor, seeking a motion on that. Before I do so, I've been inclined, perhaps again, because this is quite special and unique. Perhaps, Mr. Collins, if you might want to introduce the officer's report on this one.
Yep, happy to. Thanks, Mayor. So this contract that we're discussing is in respect of the management and operation of both the Maryborough Sports and Leisure Centre and the 3 outdoor pools we have in our Shire, Talbot, Dunolly and Maryborough. That have been under contract delivered by Unified Leisure since 2016 on a 5-year contract with an option for a 5-year extension period. It should be noted that Councillor Murphy is also a director and paid a salary through Unified Leisure. So in working through our options on the next stages, having come to the end of that initial contract period, it's been incumbent on officers to ensure that there's been real integrity to the process of evaluating and providing recommendations to councillors on the next steps. Under councillor instruction, we extended the contract with Unified for an additional year, which we're in at the moment, to enable further information to be gathered on the optimum way in which we manage our leisure services across the Shire, and engaged a probity advisor through AFS and Associates, chartered accountancy and property advice provide kind of all sorts of advice for us on making sure that our process was carried out in recognition of the conflict in place, and they've been satisfied with the process throughout. And consideration for us really has been looking at the various ways in which councils do manage leisure services across different councils in Australia, and weighing up the pros and cons of, for example, councils directly managing services or councils establishing separate management companies, as well as the external management contract that we currently have. We also undertook a market testing exercise to understand value for money currently within the leisure providers market, to look at what our options would be should we go out to an open procurement. Having undertaken those pieces of work, we've come to the conclusion that forms the recommendations in this report, that it's the best value for the folk in the Shire and for the council that we seek to continue the external contract with Unified, and that we do that, and that we continue our external management model going forward as the way in which we can deliver best value for management of leisure services across Central Goldfields.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Any questions, Mr. Collins? If not, so councillor seeking a motion. Councillor Lover.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that Council 1 continues with an external contract model for the delivery of leisure services at the Maryborough Sports and Leisure Centre and the 3 outdoor pools. 2, commences negotiations to take up a 5-year contract extension option 2021 to 2026 with Unified Community Sport and Leisure Limited. And 3, delegates to the CEO the power to negotiate and enter into a contract extension as detailed in the 2 March 2022 reports, public and confidential, of Manager Community Partnerships, MSLC and Outdoor Pools Management, and contract number G1083-16.
Thank you, Councillor Lover. The seconder. Councillor Sprout. Councillor Lover, no, he's talked to motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this recommendation unreservedly. This is the largest ongoing contract that council enters into. Therefore, it is important that we get it right. It is my understanding that Unified Community and Sports Leisure have demonstrated over several years that they are more than capable of carrying out what is required under this contract. This includes running the contract over the last 2 years under the most unpredictable business conditions due to COVID. This is a good decision, a prudent decision, a smart decision, and if successful tonight, will allow everyone to get on with business.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lover. Councillor Sprout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a few pieces to the puzzle, that is the full management within the Central Goldfields Shire. The first step was to look at the management options available to us. 3 were identified, which were in-house, where council employs the staff directly to manage and run the pools within our Shire. External contractor, which is what we have now, or a company limited by guarantee management. This has taken me a little while to articulate, so I hope what I'm about to say comes across as intended. I'm not saying that what is proposed in the Office's recommendations is not the best thing to do in our current situation, but what I want to do is highlight, in my opinion, that in order for council to have better flexibility in how our pools and leisure centres are run, the management of these services that our community cherish should be run in-house. One argument for not having in-house management is that to do so would raise costs due to labour expenses. People employed by council would be entitled to different wages and conditions due to being covered by different employment agreements. This would have an effect on the operating costs of the pool, which would in turn be of higher cost to council and no doubt affect the prices passed on to users of these services. The could also have effects on the operating hours. This is where I have a bit of a dilemma. As a council, we want to provide the best possible services for the best possible services for the best possible value. We have a responsibility to the ratepayer of the Shire to do this. However, in principle, I stand against a system that relies on lower wages and conditions for its employees in order to provide a service. I'm not implying in any way that there's any wrongdoing with the current arrangement. This is just the nature of the system we live in around differing industries and awards or employment agreements. There could be an option for council to negotiate a new Greenfields EBA agreement that would allow council to negotiate different wages and conditions than existing council employees due to the industry falling under a different award. But I would argue that these services should be treated the same as other council-run services and should be paid accordingly. So how do we determine value? Is it simply a dollar figure cost to council, or is it the financial benefit to the community through wages both earned and spent in our community? Now, saying all of that, we must pick our battles. In order to pursue an in-house management arrangement would require significant work that quite simply we don't have the resources for at the moment. It would also impact how the services are run. I admit I may be addressing this by an ideological standpoint, but wanted to use this opportunity to highlight how complex some of these considerations can be, and we all approach them from different angles. I want to express that our current service provider has excellent community relations, a good social compass, and highly experienced in their field. I have no concerns whatsoever about our current management contract and concur with Councillor Lovett's comments. So while I would prefer an in-house management structure, I concede at the present time to do so would not be in the best interest of our Shire as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Sprout. Other councillors? Councillor Lavelle.
Just a quick comment, offering a 5-year extended contract, I feel is very prudent, given we're coming out of COVID, and the opportunity to seek contractors to upgrade our heritage pools and other has been problematic in the past due to the window of cost, it's blown out from what we could afford to what it will really cost to upgrade a heritage pool. So that will take, I believe, some couple of years to lay that down. So everything's all right for and Unified Community Sport Leisure Limited. Have the history of the sport here, and who's better to carry us through with that information and our pools and getting that all upgraded than that company. So I'm all for this.
Thank you, Councillor. No other councillors? I just wanted to make a very simple, short point, and that is during the summer, all the height of the pool season, a number of reports across the news about pools having to close because of a lifeguard shortage. No pool in Central Goldfields had to close. Local knowledge and local contact pay off. I'll put the motion. All those.
Could I have right?
Absolutely, yes.
Following on from what Councillor Sproul said, which is very informative, and I take what you say as very serious. I have to say that previously council have run this business in-house in years gone by. However, over a period of time, it became obvious to both council and the CEO that the resources required to run these facilities not only took an enormous amount of staff time, but in fact, on occasion was beyond our in-house ability to run this complex area. That is not a reflection on any individual or any group, but this is a specialist area, and to be perfectly honest, at that time, it was beyond our ability to do it on an ongoing basis. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. We'll get Councillor Murphy back in. note councillor Murphy re-enters the chamber at 7 p.m. Item 9, notice of motion. 9.1, the Loddon Murray Community Leadership Program. Notice of motion from you, councillor Long. Invite you to introduce your notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move a motion that council supports becoming a program partner of the Lead Loddon Murray Community Leadership Program, or LMCLP for short, and considers this in the 22-23 budget process at a cost of $8,000 per annum. Number 2, that this $8,000 be used to sponsor one emerging leader residing in the Central Goldfields Shire to complete the LMCLP. Number 3, that council considers this funding for a minimum of 2 years to coincide with the 2024 Central Goldfields Shire election. And number 4, that after 2 years the funding is reassessed, and if a positive outcome has been achieved, the program partnership be continued.
Thank you, councillor Long. Is it seconder? Councillor, thank you, councillor Villiers. Councillor Long, speak to your motion.
Thank you, through the Mayor. First of all, thank you for allowing me to present my notice of motion tonight. I'm fortunate to have been selected to participate in the 2022 cohort of the Loddon Murray Community Leadership Program, or LMCLP. This worthwhile program has been running for 24 years, and in the last 4 years alone, 5 incredible Central Goldfields community leaders have graduated from this program. The region that LMCLP covers has 10 local government areas, including Macedon Ranges, Mount Alexander, Central Goldfields, City of Greater Bendigo, Campaspe, Gunawarra, Loddon, Bullock, Swan Hill, and Northern Grampians. During my first intensive weekend away, which was a couple of weekends ago, I was surprised to see 7 out of the 10 LGAs in the catchment area as program partners. Sadly and disappointingly, Central Goldfields is one of the 3 that isn't a program partner. I see this partnership as a vital investment in our Shire's future. Our Shire needs local leaders, as I wrote in my recent column in the Maryborough Advertiser. In fact, I would not be an elected councillor right now, and I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Lead Loddon Murray's leading excellent Maryborough program, which I completed in 2018. This program ran for 3 years. 2 weeks ago, Minister for Regional Development, Marianne Thomas MP, came to Maryborough to announce $1.8 million for the Regional Community Leadership Program. Maryborough was handpicked as the venue because of its great results seen in the area, both through LMCLP as well as LEM. But again, we are not program partners. I would like to see this rectified so that we can invest in our future leaders, and that hopefully every year at least one Central Goldfields emerging leader will complete the LMCLP. I would like to ask my fellow councillor colleagues for your support in making Central Goldfields Shire an LMCLP program partner from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Long. Councillor Villiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that any initiative to support learning and development in the community should be supported and encouraged. This is an excellent initiative to encourage, grow and contribute to succession planning for council and other committees within the community. However, I would also like to emphasise that the motion is a request for council to include the financial commitment in our budget discussions and deliberations that is currently underway. This motion of notice is not asking for any guarantees for financial support.
Okay, thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Murphy, then councillor.
I just want to ask a question first. Ask a question?
Yes, sure.
I'm the big program partner for $8,000 sponsorship. As program partner of the program, or do we pay money to the program, or this is to sponsor a person? It seems to me 2 different things. Does the council at the moment pay any money to this organisation at all? Because it seems like it's to pay for a person to go and do the course. Pay for a person to go and do the course. But then we say program partner, so it's a course payment or a partner of the program. I just want to how that clarified.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. You've totally confused me now. So my understanding is that Central Goldfields would provide $8,000, and this money would then fund a emerging leader from the Central Goldfields to complete the program.
Do you want clarification? Ask the CEO for clarification on
I
that
just
one.
need a clarification.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need a clarification. Does council put any money into the Lee, Lott and Murray at all?
It is working now. So I can clarify that we're not currently contributing financially to the program. Any member of the community can apply for the program, but what being a program partner does is guarantee you a local community member in the program. So they call it a program partner. It is like a sponsorship. The state government have just invested 1.8 million in regional community leadership programs across the state. That doesn't fund the full program. So there were many organisations, and Councillor Long put in her report that councils that contribute, they contribute as a partner, which guarantees them a person in the program. Does it make it clearer? But at the moment, we don't have that funding in our budget, and we didn't make a contribution this financial year.
The unclear thing is, how much is the program partner and how much is to do the course?
The cost of the course, I don't have the figures in front of me for the cost of the course if you wanted to just pay for someone to do the course.
What I'm trying to find out, if we put $8,000 in, $3,000 goes to help the program go forward, to help the program survive. It's administration, it's all these other things, and then $5,000 is for the course.
Through the Mayor, I don't have the figures of how that is. The financials of Lee, Lott and Murray, that is up to Lee, Lott and Murray, how their financials work, but what the program partner amount is that you put in at 8,000 guarantees you someone in the course.
Okay.
And if I could add.
No, hang on, just
I'll just ask the questions, I'll come back later.
Okay, thanks very much. So, Councillor Bell.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I would like to say what an amazing and successful program it has been, and it's certainly been acknowledged by the state with yet another injection of $1.8 million to further enhance the program. And I did meet a few successful participants on the day who had gained so much confidence in leadership to move ahead in whatever career path they chose. As with you, Councillor Long, giving you the confidence to stand up and be counted. All that said, is sponsorship our domain? I don't believe so. Even though other councils have thrown their hat into the ring, I don't believe it is a wise precedent to set. It opens up the doors for all and sundry to expect council sponsorship. Unwise territory. I would certainly urge local businesses and organisations to consider the LMCLP program for their succession training. $8,000 is a lot of money for a very low budget shire, which I feel can be better spent towards something tangible and outcomes that the whole of the community could enjoy. Currently, council does have their own program through LG Pro, which is Emerging Leaders Program, which I think we utilise, is that correct, Madam CEO? For first line managers, is that correct? And also under management level, there are other programs. So I don't feel the $8,000, and I'm sorry, Councillor, does warrant for your program, even though it's a very successful and look at you program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other councillors? Councillor Lovett, and I think Councillor Murphy wants to go afterwards. Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be voting against this motion, not because I have an issue with the program. In fact, I have no doubt that for participants, it is highly rewarding. Councillor Long attributes credit to her participation that led to her being elected to council. I disagree with this. It led to her nominating for council. She was elected by our community. And this is where I have a fundamentally different view. To me, this program is about self-growth and personal development, both highly commendable. To me, council is about community. It is about enabling organisations, clubs and groups of people to operate for the collective good of the community. We've heard an example of that tonight. It is not about us as a council trying to pick individuals who will go on to become councillors. And I most certainly disagree that it is our role as councillors to succession planning. We are not directors of a public company whose priority is to maximise the share price and shareholder returns, nor are we a football club who constantly are looking for the best coach or players that will ensure future success. We are councillors elected by our community to always act in their best interest. We strive to ensure that the Shire has a sustainable future by putting in place the building blocks so that those who follow us have the foundations to work on. It is not, in my opinion, our job to handpick the next group of councillors. That is entirely up to the residents of Central Goldfields Shire who will vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Councillor Murphy.
I'll be voting no, but I just still don't understand how you get $8,000 to do a course and you become a program partner. It has to be like $3,000 to be a partner, $5,000 to do the course. I think that's what I really would like to know. So I'd like to ask the CEO to find out the exact cost on this. I think it was like $2,000 or $1,000 to be a program partner of the whole thing. Well, I may have a different attitude because $8,000 is all a matter. It can't just be that. There's something strange there. And yeah, well, yeah, but sorry, I can't debate. I'm just saying that I don't understand $8,000, whereas money has to go into their administration and do things. The $8,000 is not just for a course. It has to be somewhere else. And I think maybe they should be more upfront with it. If they're not upfront with it, I find that very disturbing. So I will not be voting for this for that reason. And the reason is $8,000 could go to, well, it's not in the budget anyway, but it could go to other things in 1,000 increments to clubs, etc. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Other councillors? If there are no other councillor before giving right of reply, I will comment on this one. This is a difficult one. On one hand, I've had past experience with the program while I was involved with the MAV, Future Local Government. I was regular presenter at this program. I think I understand it well. And yes, it has achieved and does achieve a lot of good and a lot of personal growth. And I also want to acknowledge Councillor Long's her journey in this and the benefit that it has done and the confidence it's given her. And none of us should underestimate that. And also the fact that she is such a passionate champion. And I want to acknowledge that and praise that because I think that's a fine thing. I do want to pick up one point I think Councillor Lovett said about There are different ways that bring us to the council table. And if you look back at the last council election in 2020, I think it was the highest turnout that we've had of candidates for a very long time, and the highest turnout of women. And indeed, people came from different directions. Different things give us confidence to move forward, including this program and Councillor Long's journey. The final point is really just touching on to the point of Councillor Murphy's about budget, and others have touched on it before. Councillor Lavella, you've touched on it. Reading the report of the Independent Remuneration Tribunal about just come out about councils and elected councillors, one of the conclusions they've pointed out is that this is a rapidly changing world, and councillors have to equip themselves with new skills, new experiences, new legislation. This is more than half of the full budget in a year that we have available for all councillors to undertake development, more than half in this rapidly changing world. And I cannot support, relatively, I can't bring myself to support nominating $8,000 for this. So reluctantly and sadly, I'm afraid I will be voting against the motion. Councillor Long, right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just doing the quick maths, I think the motion is already lost, but that's okay. I'll still have a right of reply, thank you. Councillor Lavella said in her statement that this would bring other groups forward and expect sponsorship, which I don't really agree with. I think this is not a sausage sizzle that we're running or something like that. This is actually growing our local leaders to step up. And not just in council, they could step up for other leadership positions. I think we all agree that, you know, our local volunteers, the Shire wouldn't be the Shire it is without our local volunteers. So it's not just to build people up to become councillors, it's for all types of leadership. So I don't agree with Councillor Lovett that we're going to handpick councillors. I don't think that's quite right. I think the council could be as involved or not involved as they wanted to. It could be the Loddon Murray that has an applicant that would then maybe come to council and say, hey, I think this person would be perfect for your sponsorship. So, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening, and thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Item 10, urgent business, any urgent business, councillors? Item 11, any other business, councillors? If not, we have no confidential business because we have no need of that to deal with that report. I will therefore at 7:18 PM declare the meeting closed. Thank everyone for attending. Thank those in our galleries for attending, and as I say, how welcome it is to have a gallery again, a live gallery. And thank those also following us faithfully at home on Facebook or on the virtual gallery. Thank you so much.